The Feed.
Is learning to create a press release an asset for podcasters? Things to think about if you're going to shut down your podcast. A co-hosted in-person podcast setup that is both portable and modern. Podlink is back to its original owner. Can you put a PDF in your RSS feed? We clarify gathering all the data for your podcast. We've got some great feedback on Libsyn's multi-user and, of course, mean and median download numbers. Hello, I am Elsie Escobar, Director of Community and Content for Libsyn, and this is episode 297 of The Feed, the official Libsyn podcast, the podcast that takes it beyond how to podcast into keeping you podcasting with podcasting tips and information for the everyday podcaster and taking you inside Libsyn. And if you're starting a podcast or simply looking to find a new home for your podcast, use the code THEFEED, all one word, to get 1 month free over at Libsyn, LIBSYN.com. Now, if you would like to get featured on the show, send in your 30-second promo. How do you do it? Attach it to an email and send it to thefeed@libsyn.com. If you don't have a promo, but you want your voice on the show, ask us a question or add to the conversation that you hear on an episode, send us voice feedback. You can call us at 412-573-1934, or you can use SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/thefeed. Everything is done via email, and it's always first come, first served, and subject to time, topic relevance, or editorial discretion. Plus, the sooner you get it back to me, the sooner that you'll be in the queue. All right, are you ready to get started? Man, do we have a jam-packed conversation. Here we go. It's our main conversation with Rob Walsh, VP of Podcaster Relations at Libsyn, as well as my co-host. Hello, Rob.
Good generic time of the day, Elsie. How are you doing?
I'm a little tired. Can't lie. This morning recording is it's hurting me a little bit.
You told me your family schedule recently. I can see why you're tired.
I know. It's so funny. I was just thinking about my old life for a moment, and I used to have to stay up till like 1 or 2 in the morning because I was working at a restaurant. And in restaurants, you close at midnight or 1. You clean up, get home. And now, like, the idea of that is so much. So anyway, all that to say, I went to bed a little bit too late last night, not nearly around 1 or 2 a.m., but it's kicking my behind. I'm not made as I used to.
My wife's the same. My wife used to work in the food beverage industry, working at the bars, closing down at the end of the night, all that stuff. And now it's like 9 o'clock. She's like, I hit my wall.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I used to have to teach a yoga class at 7:30 a.m. That was me. And I would just do it. But I think, obviously no children. And also in the middle of the day, I could just come home and chill. I could just not do anything or think about anything. Oh my God. All right. So why don't we start the show today by a little bit of feedback on our multi-user feature that we rolled out.
From our good friend, Steve.
Yes, Steve Stewart, take it away.
Hey, Rob and Elsie and Libsyn fans, this is Steve Stewart. I've been using the multi-user function for almost 5 years now. Elsie, I don't know if you recall, but it was on March 6th of 2020. Got to remember that date, the week before everything shut down. You announced to the people who were attending my podcast editor conference that you were going to be opening up this functionality to us podcast editors who use Libsyn to upload stuff to our clients' accounts all the time. And it was fantastic. I applied for it right away. It's so much easier. And I'm coming at it as the person who's been added to somebody else's account, not the podcaster who's adding people's account, but I'm the support staff, you would say. So much easier to log into one Libsyn account and just have that drop down and be able to bump into every single one of my clients' accounts. It's so great to just be able to log in one time, be able to stay there all day long, switch accounts, go from one show to the next show to the next show as I'm uploading things. I only upload maybe 2 or 3 episodes a day, but man, I'll tell you, it is just so convenient to be able to log into one thing and be able to get to all of them. But it does come at a cost because it's also easy to accidentally upload an episode to the wrong show. So something to always be aware of as you're using multi-user in Libsyn. If you're like me, you're logging in to get to other people's accounts. And it's so much more secure than just sharing passwords. Even if you're using something like 1Password, I prefer to be able to log into my account. I don't have to worry about if they change their password. It doesn't affect me. And I believe the functionality is exactly the same as what I've been using for the past 5 years, as what you guys have just released to the public. So good on you. Thanks for providing that to everybody. And I can see that this is going to make it easier for me too, as I'm bringing in new clients who sign up for Libsyn to be able to just add me as a user. Just I can walk them through it like that. So thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. This is Steve Stewart, co-founder of the Podcast Editor Academy, which you can find at podcasteditoracademy.com. Thanks.
Well, Steve, thank you for the comments. And there is a big difference between what you had and what's out there now. And that is what's out there now does not require customer service to add the user. That's the big difference, right? But to your point, uploading a show or an episode to the wrong show is a big thing to watch out for. So if you, as a user, get added to multiple shows, right, which can happen for many producers, you just need to be careful. And I could tell you someone who's uploaded thousands of episodes with multi-user access to, I literally have 10,000 shows that are associated with my account. You always want to make sure you're in the right show. And it's a good time to look at stats and look at some other information before you upload and publish, just to make sure you're in the right show before you do that.
Yeah, I did that, you guys. I did that. For those of you who happen to be following this show, the feed, and I published She Podcasts on this feed, you all reminded me, or you told me, hey, you published the wrong episode on the wrong feed. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's why everything looked wrong. To your point, Rob, when I was in the UI, I did see things that didn't make sense. I saw little tiny settings where I was like, wait, why is this set up this way? And it completely made me forget about it. And I was mortified, of course, if there's still somebody listening to this podcast that did remember this. I want to hear from you. Please email thefeed@libsyn.com because you are a deep cut.
We have our pro accounts have always had multi-user too.
Yes, correct.
And over the years, I've had different pro customers go, why is this episode showing up on the wrong show? And it's always because it was an issue between the chair and the keyboard. They selected the wrong show and uploaded to the wrong show. So you just have to be careful when you have access to multiple shows that you are uploading to the right show.
Yeah.
It can be done.
And, just as a note, everybody, while we're talking about sort of best practices of using multi-user in this fashion too, I would suggest to you, if you are on a deadline and you're so exhausted and it's, 1:30 in the morning and you're just going, okay, I'm just going to put this out because I want to get this done. That's when the problems come. That's when you think you're doing things and you're not actually doing the right thing. And it's when you tend to make the most mistakes because your brain is too exhausted to double check all the things. So I would say pause for a moment, splash some water on your face, or wait until morning, then do the last little bit of the actual publishing, because I guarantee when you're that tired, that's when I make the mistakes. When I just push through and I'm like, I check, boom. And then I always forget something vital and I'm annoyed. Anywho, thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys are checking it out. If you have any other feedback around multi-user, if you have added anybody to your show, even if it's your co-host, that would be great. Please send it over to us, thefeed@libsyn.com. Okay. And now I want to move over and kind of pitch this survey. It's the Independent Podcaster Survey that was just sent to me by Matthew McLean. And I took it. And I think it's a great little survey. Obviously, volume for surveys like this are really amazing. The podcast show, Colin Gray, we just mentioned him as he was actually mentioned within the Apple keynote. Well, not specifically. Colin Gray was not specifically called out, but his business Alitu was. He does a really fantastic job, or their team does a fantastic job of gathering information around the independent podcaster. And that is the majority of you who are listening to this podcast at this time. he really wants to get some intel behind the scenes, what's really going on with the pain points and or your biggest wins and why you podcast, and really sharing that intel with us. I think I'm going to put a link to last year's survey results so that you could see how it's used. I think it's a great, great survey. So there's a link in the show notes. Please click through and fill it out. Takes 4 minutes. Super easy. Okay.
All right. So you saw this article on this next one here?
Yeah. Nathan Gath. I don't even know how to say his name. Nathan Gathright, right? Gathright. Okay. I'm so sorry, Nathan. I hate it. It's so hard. Anyway, Nathan got Podlinks back. He created Pod.link, which a lot of people use to promote their show in a way, to basically share their show and have all of the links in one place and people can, listen the way that they want to listen to. Spotify had previously purchased it or acquired it.
Originally, 2021, we actually talked about it on the show. 2021, Podsites acquired it. And then after that, Spotify acquired Podsites. So it was under the Spotify umbrella. And then Nathan left Spotify in 2023, I think. And now he has reacquired Podlinks back from Spotify, who wasn't really using it. And we did comment on this in the past, and I'll repeat this. The one big thing I would like, Nathan, if you're listening, for you to fix, now that you have Podlinks back, is the RSS feed that is displayed on the podcasters page, right? For our show, the URL listed for the RSS feed is https://pod.link/6684134144.rss. That is clearly not our RSS feed URL, just one that does redirect to our feed. But if you're going to have a link to the RSS feed, you really should just display the podcaster's real feed and not the Podlink feed. That was my issue with Podlink in the past. I hope, Nathan, now that you have it back, you'll fix the RSS feed link that is shown to be the podcaster's current RSS feed and not a third-party Podlink URL. I hope you're listening, Nathan. I hope you fix that. It's not right to show a link for the RSS feed and have a third-party feed. That's just not kosher.
All right. But congratulations, Nathan, for getting it all back. And that's yay. And plus also, he has another product that I've talked about before, episodes.fm. And that's usually now how I share whenever anybody asks me about my podcast, or I'm actually sharing somebody else's show or somebody else's episode. I usually use episodes.fm just to make it easier all the way around. Okay. So Rob, here's an email. I'm going to go ahead and read it and then you answer it. Here we go. Hi, Rob. I'm an instructor who teaches podcasting. You Zoomed with us last year. Thanks again. Quick question. Do you see any value for my class getting an assignment to create a press release for their podcast? I'm adding that to various classes in sports journalism, as it is a skill that is needed in college athletics, but not sure about podcasting. Regards, NR.
All caps. Absolutely yes. And all caps. Especially for local focused podcasts. When you launch a podcast, sending out a PR announcing the podcast is highly recommended. But make sure there's a hook in the PR that is focused on press you are interested in picking it up. There are plenty of services out there that allow you to do a PR for free as well. And speaking of students, last month, a couple months ago, I was in Pittsburgh, and I was talking to a high school senior. And we're getting ready. He's getting ready to go off to Ohio State. And he asked me what he should podcast about. And I told him, what are the top 10 to 20 companies he wants to work for? Then look at what area of business is the one that most of the companies in that his wish list come from. Then do a podcast covering that area of business. Then start reaching out to people from those companies to do interviews with. Basically, use the podcast as his main recruiting tool. Plus, he'll learn a lot about that business segment just by covering it. So, if you're getting ready to go off to college, think about doing that. You're going to get some really great connections if you do that. And then the same thing goes with sports. If you want to get into sports in a market like Boston or Columbus or whatever, find a women's sports team, local college women's team, something like that, something that has nobody covering it. And then you cover that women's sports team. And they will be so grateful to have someone covering it. And you're going to get access to different people, and you're going to get a reputation. You're going to meet people. You're going to be in connections with people in that local market, and do that PR around that and send out the press around that. And the local press will pick up the fact that someone's covering this local sports team. They'll be, oh, wow, someone's covering the Columbus Lady, whatever it is, Buckeyes, fencing team. Just cover something that no one else is covering, especially around women's sports, because it's so undercovered that you're going to dominate the coverage on that team, and you're going to get more access than you would ever do covering a big sports team. So there's my recommendation.
Nice. That's great. If you do take them up, if anybody takes up Rob's advice, reach back to the show, the feed at Libsyn.com. And now we have another email. Hi. I was hoping someone could help me understand the download numbers I'm seeing for my podcast. I worked for an NR marketing company. As I wrap up season 1, I've been experimenting with a few different strategies to grow my listener base. But this recent spike seems suspect, as 95% of the downloads are for episode 5. NRMC informed me this is normal due to most will listen to the latest episode. I find that a little off due to I am an avid podcaster and I never start with the latest episode for a serial podcast. Is there any insight you can provide about how or why this might be happening? I'd really appreciate your perspective. Kind regards, NRPC.
So per your questions, concerns, I'll say this. Any service that promotes a direct media file is not one we would recommend and would instantly disqualify the show from being in our programmatic ad offering. The reason why is they are not real listeners. You can even see this in the stats, on this person's stats. On April 24th, there were 2,097 listeners that downloaded 2,099 episodes, which means at least 2,095 only downloaded one episode and did not check out any other episodes. The episode that is directly promoted is all they consumed, which means you did not get a new audience member, just a forced download request. In the case of promotion, of a promotion offering that really builds an audience, it will get new listeners downloading more than one episode. And for a serial podcast, them going back to episode 1. If you turn off the current promotion and your numbers go back to where you were before, that is the simplest way to see if it was effective or not. I would see where your new episodes are download-wise for the first 7-day number and for your next 2 to 3 episodes and see if there's any difference versus where you were before the campaigns. Again, per any service that directly promotes the media URL, forcing inflated downloads, we do block those shows from our auto ads offering. And then I said, let me know if you have any questions further above, and they were thankful. And I want to segue into something I had lower in the notes. I think this is a good place to put it. So I had a really awkward conversation recently with a couple around this. And part of that awkwardness, it wasn't me telling them that their numbers were bogus, because that's always tough to do. It was that the co-hosts were on the call and they were husband and wife. And I asked them if they had paid for any marketing. And the husband said, yes, they had spent $7,000 on promoting the podcast.
Oh.
Which the wife then said, was that on the service I said not to use? In that tone. And I was like, I felt really, really bad for that guy. Because not only did they waste $7,000 on totally bogus numbers, he is going to hear about that for the rest of their life or marriage, whichever comes first.
Wow.
Been there, done that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, ooh, I know that tone. I've been that guy. I've done that thing. Anyway, he's going to hear it. This is a quick reminder. If you are going to spend money to promote your podcast, make sure you're actually advertising on another podcast in your genre. That is the best and most effective paid marketing for podcasts. After that, there's getting a banner ad on Overcast and other podcast aggregator apps where the banner is in your genre. But beyond that, spending on marketing your podcast, there's a big drop-off in effectiveness. And in most cases, if they're promoting your URL, there's just no real audience to it.
Yeah. Even if you start to think about it, you guys, the end user, like I want you guys to really put yourself in that seat. Meaning if you're going to click a URL, an MP3 URL, an audio file URL online, or even within an app that is not a podcast app, what is your behavior once audio starts playing? What do? Let's pretend that you don't immediately go like, what? And then close out and go away. Let's pretend you don't do that. Let's pretend you actually are intrigued. Let's give the benefit of the doubt to the episode and think like, my God, when you click through, this is the thing you've been waiting to hear your whole entire life, and you want to keep hearing it. What do you do next? The saving of a link, an MP3 link, are you going to put it in your saved, read it later? Are you going to email the MP3 link to yourself to remember to add it to Overcast if you have a paid account, because you can add MP3s there? Are you going to upload it to Dropbox? Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to listen to the show? Because it's very hard. I've had that happen to me when I've been listening on mobile browsers in the past, where I've clicked through and I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm just going to leave it here. And I forget that there's an open tab there. I close all the tabs. I can't remember where the tab is. It's too much of a pain in the butt to go back to the... It's a whole thing, you guys. It's a whole thing. So yeah, sharing direct links is not the way to go. And I think the other thing that I would say, there's different types of marketing, people, right? This is growth marketing, what is referred to as growth marketing, what Rob is talking about, which is very, very specifically about getting more downloads or, in quote, listens to your show. And there's other kinds of marketing that you actually it would be amazing to build out an operational system for you to be able to market your show. For $7,000, you can spend $7,000 and get so much benefit out of building an infrastructure to be able to get your show out. Having things that are actually going to be helpful to figuring things out. You can hire a consultant to help you optimize all kinds of things about actual marketing, not this specific service, because that's not building an audience for you.
And you don't have to spend another $5,000 on marriage counselors either.
Oh my God. I'm sorry that you had to tell those folks that.
The tone was like, is that the service? I said, it was like, oh, it was like, oh, I know that tone.
You're like, oh no.
I get that when I do things I'm not supposed to do.
And even things like, you know what actually does work in some way. I'm not saying for you to do this for your podcast or an MP3 link either. I'm not saying that. But things like Instagram marketing or Facebook marketing, it works for like getting people to go to an opt-in page. That actually does work to capture leads. It really does work. So if you want to create a podcast.
If you target the right genre.
Yeah.
Not wide, not broad, not everybody, but to specific psychographics if you can.
That takes work, and that's what you pay for. If you don't know how to do that, then you pay for a marketer who can help you figure out who your target audience is and how to use these tools. That's worth the money, because then you know how to do it yourself, how to target. Like, there's all kinds of learning that you can do for yourself, but to have somebody else do this kind of thing is wasted. Because the minute you stop, what happens, Rob?
It goes away.
Yes.
I had a call with someone yesterday, and the person's like, well, how do you know this isn't real? I go, well, here, let me back up and show you your stats here. I go, do you see here in January when you tried the service out, and then in February where you didn't use it, and then here is March when you turned it on because you realized it had grown, it had increased your numbers? I go, see that we're in between? That's your real audience in between. And the guy's like, okay.
Yeah, it is disheartening. It is very disheartening. It's like there's so many smart people out there who are, and again, marketing is not quick. It takes time and thought.
And don't believe them when they say it's organic audience. It's a real audience. It's organic downloads. It's all these services are saying the word organic, and it's not. It's not organic. It's inorganic. It's bogus, artificial inflation.
Anywho, all right, we've covered that one. Let's go to another email here. Good morning, Rob. I hope all is well. We have a question for you about our podcast. Is there a way we could upload PDF files to go along with the podcast? I see there's a place for uploading transcripts, but we are interested in attaching a PDF version of the slides from our corresponding webcasts to each podcast episode. Is that a possibility? Thanks for any insights you can provide. Kind regards, NR.
Hi, NR. We do support, and Libsyn, I think, is the only one that supports publishing PDF files as standalone episodes. When doing this as a companion to a specific episode, you would want to publish the PDF to be earlier than the episode. For example, if the episode post with the audio file is going live at 4 a.m. Eastern Time on the feed for a specific day, make it where the PDF companion for that episode goes live at 3:30 a.m. on that same day, Eastern Time. That way, the audio file is the most recent one in your feed. So make sure if you are going to do the PDF companion, it's a half an hour earlier, or at least than the audio file. That all said, most apps do not support PDF files. Apple used to support it, but Apple Podcast no longer has PDFs working. We have not heard back from Apple if when that would be fixed. iTunes on PCs, however, still supports PDFs. So if you're subscribed to a podcast on iTunes on a PC, you can get the PDF. On the Libsyn side, again, we do support the PDFs as standalone apps. Sadly, however, most apps do not support the PDF file episodes. It will not break anything. They simply will not show up. To address this issue, what some of our other podcasts do is publish the PDF, as I mentioned above, as a standalone episode, but then in the description of the episode post for the audio file, they also put in the direct naked link for the PDF companion. Something similar to what you do in the show notes. Like it would be like https://traffic.libsyn.com/cura/PME25_stats_2504 on 02.a.pdf. So you have the naked link showing up in the description along with the audio file. So then, at least in Apple Podcasts, they can go and click on that in the show notes, and you have that there. And I added a link to an episode, and I tested it with Apple Podcast and Spotify and Overcast, and the PDF launched from all when the naked link was added in. So it does work, and I tested it, like a month ago, and it was working fine.
Did you test out doing a hyperlink to the PDF?
I didn't test out the hyperlink because I wanted to put the naked link in to test it on multiple apps. So I didn't do the embed link.
Because I do it for, you know what, I'm going to actually check it. Because I do, you know how you always share, that's how we share our PR, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. It's usually linked to a PDF like that. So it works.
Okay.
I just wanted to let you know that if it's a hyperlink of the same thing, it works. I do that all the time for this show. Rob often shares a lot of PDFs. And if you have tapped through to a PDF that is directly on our show notes, you've seen that it just pops up and you can read it. So I know that, yes, you could do it on the feed like Rob mentioned, for sure. But also you can just have it hosted wherever it is that you like, a Dropbox link, a Drive link. You just won't get stats. You won't know who is, how many downloads of said PDF you're getting.
And again, I do recommend you post the PDF in the scenario as its own standalone post, because there are some apps that still do support it. And hopefully at some point in the time, Apple Podcasts will support PDF again. But then it does give you the direct link, and you do also put that direct link into the show notes for the audio episode post. So cover it both ways and you're golden. But make sure the PDF is earlier in the show list than the audio file.
RSS is magic. Okay. Here's another email. Hi, Rob. We have noticed discrepancies between the download numbers reported by Libsyn for Apple and Spotify and the figures we're seeing directly in our Apple and Spotify accounts. Could you please help clarify what might be causing these differences? Thank you for your assistance. Hi, Rob. Question. If I look at what Apple Connect reports for plays in May and add it to what Spotify reports, it's a way bigger number than what Libsyn reports total. Why might this be?
All right. So multiple people, similar question. When looking at the downloads in Libsyn, please note they will never match up with the plays in Apple or Spotify because Apple and Spotify have different filtering / definitions for plays than the IAB has for downloads. For example, in Apple Podcast, if you as a listener click play, then pause, then play, then pause, then play, then pause, all within 5 seconds, Apple would count that as 3 plays in their stats. In that case, with the IAB, it would not even be 1 download. The Libsyn downloads are based on the following. At least 1 minute's worth of content delivered to the end users, filtered on unique IP address and user agent combination, filtered also over a 24-hour rolling window. So unique IP address, user agent combo filtered over a 24-hour window with at least 1 minute's worth of content being delivered. That's the IAB's definition of a download. When looking at numbers for downloads, it is better to look for user agent downloads versus destination downloads for Apple Podcasts, because the feed for the Apple Podcast also is used by Overcast and CastBox and Pocket Cast and over 400 other apps. So the Apple Podcast destination in stats in Libsyn is for a lot more than just Apple Podcasts. However, in short, when you want to know how many times an episode is downloaded requested, the Libsyn stats are going to be your most accurate stats as we aggregate the data from all sources and we filter per the IAB guidelines. When looking at data from Apple Podcast Connect account and Spotify account, just use the data to see where in the episodes people are listening to and dropping off at. So Libsyn for magnitude, i.e. the actual audience size, Apple and Spotify for trends in consumption. That's how you should look at stats. And I do get that question quite a bit on the plays. I actually have some canned responses. I just go over, grab it, and reply.
All right. What do they say? Do people go thank you or are they like confused? Or
some people say thank you. Okay, great. That's great. And other people go because the number they were looking at was higher on Apple than with us. And when I tell them their number's lower, then they ego equals download squared, and I hit their ego. And some people don't like the answer, and then they want to have a phone call, and then I have to go over it with them on a phone call, explain it to them in more detail. Sometimes it's a case of, some of the pro customers where they were reporting the bigger number, and now they have to go and justify why they have to report the smaller number.
No, in those situations, it's challenging to have to, with all that knowledge. I understand. I get it. All right. So we have another piece of audio feedback today. Hello, Sevilla.
Hi there, Elsie and Rob. This is Sevilla Morgan, founder and host of the Childless Not by Choice podcast and the Not Just Another Religion and Politics podcast. I am actually, after 10 years of podcasting, July 2025 makes 10 years of podcasting, decided to shut down the podcast officially at the end of 2025. So the December 2025 episode will be the final episode. I am leaving the door slightly open in case I get a good interview, and my podcast producer has agreed to come back and produce the episode if that happens. But officially, the podcast ends in December. And so what I want to know is, and if you have an episode on this, previous episode on this, if you can point me to that episode number. I am concerned about my intellectual property as far as just managing my episodes. I have them saved on my laptop, yes. They are at Libsyn because you are my host, but I want to know if there's anything else that I can do. My logo is copyrighted. Some people say that doesn't matter because people steal anyway, but I went ahead and had my logo copyrighted a few years ago. So I'm just wondering your thoughts and suggestions as I shut down the podcast, what to do. I think I've heard you all say before that once you close out the podcast, completely shut it down, there's no way to reopen it. Well, I'm going to keep the podcast live. I'm going to keep it live through 2026, and then at the end of 2026, make a decision as to ultimately what I want to do with the episodes. But for now, I just want to know what you can tell me about securing and protecting my intellectual property, my podcast, my platform, anything you can tell me that would be of a great help. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate it. Bye.
All right. So, well, first, we're very sad to hear you're closing down, but 10 years is a long time. So congratulations on making it 10 years. Kudos.
Yes. Bravo.
Keeping it active is easy. Just downgrade your Libsyn account to the $5 level and it will continue on. Per the question on copyrighting your content, I'm not the lawyer, so you may want to check with Gordon Firemark on this one. My understanding is that copyright, you're covered. Whether it's live or not, you've created that content. It's just like having created a record, you still have the copyright to that, whether or not anyone's playing it anywhere. So it's not like someone can take that. Now, I think you may be thinking about trademark, which is a different issue, right? And trademark laws are a little different. You'll need to look into that. If your show is no longer available, how active can you protect your trademark? And that's a different question for lawyers. So I think you were more concerned about the trademark for your show than you are about the copyright. And that you'll have to look into trademark law about what happens when the podcast is no longer available. And in that case, if it's nowhere to be found on the internet, then there may be some weakening of your trademark position versus if it was active and you were protecting it. But you may want to check with Gordon Firemark or a lawyer or Grok on that to get more info.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that you also mentioned, Civilla. You mentioned about in terms of backup, if you need anything backup outside of the fact that you said that you had it on your computer. And of course, currently your Libsyn account is open and you are planning on at least keeping it open through 2026, I believe you said. And in that case, you do have sort of two separate bits of backup. What I would say is to get all of your episodes and put them also somewhere else, either on the cloud, like maybe a Google Drive folder or a Dropbox folder, and or also adding it to another external hard drive so you have a copy of all of your MP3 files themselves. You need to have a copy of that. Because if at any time, if you decide to actually close your Libsyn account, the RSS feed will disappear and we keep your files for a little bit, but not forever.
I think what we say is after 6 months of being closed, there's no guarantee that those files will ever come back.
Yeah. So you need to have a copy of those. And per possibly disappearing in this thing. So this is something that I've been really thinking through with a lot of the people that I work with, which are going through transitional spaces like this, where they're like, I don't know what to do, And as I've been doing a lot of research, not only for my clients, but also for myself, kind of thinking through the things that I've done, is that we are in a place now where I do feel that you are able to transcribe your show if you aren't already doing this on your website. And what I would invest some time and attention doing is in optimizing your show notes that you have already published. So making them more robust, starting to add the transcript in some way there so that people could possibly even read it. If the show is done and you're like done with the show and you're never going to be putting another episode out, the work that you used to do to put the show out, now start to think about all of your episodes and how you can have a digital copy of them online for reference purposes, for what Rob was talking about, because that is going to keep that copyright of your content real. It's your work, your words, your conversations. And, you know, unfortunately, when the podcast goes away and the website goes away, you go away.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So think a little bit through that and see how you can capture the legacy of your content. How do you do that so that you have a record of that online somewhere, even if it is a very simple website, just to have that record there? It is, I think it is an important thing for you to have. Okay, here's another email. Hey, Elsie and Rob, hoping for some advice. As you know, I am an old school podcaster. Hard to believe we posted the first Manic Mommies episode 20 years ago this month. Oh my God. Who returned to podcasting this year for the show Cycling Together with Kristen and Steve. I've been using a Tascam recorder with external mics from my earlier podcasting days to capture our audio and a digital SLR for video and put them together to come up with our final video and audio podcasts. I'm curious about upgrading to a more modern setup and wondering what people use. A couple of facts that might inform your recommendation. My co-host, husband, and I are together in person for each episode, and on our most recent, we brought in 2 in-person guests. While we may do some Zoom-style interviews, most will be in person. The setup needs to be portable as we go to events, etc. I'd prefer to not have it run into my laptop, see portability above, or streaming up to the cloud, as sometimes we don't have any internet to record. I hate mixing boards, but am game to use one again. You can see/hear some of our work product here. And I'll have a link to her show in our show notes so that you can check out her current setup for an Instagram account. Any recommendations are welcome. Rob, I put some stuff in here. You are welcome to chime in.
I'll let you go over yours and then I'll give my thoughts.
Okay. So these are the first things that I thought. I immediately thought of this product that we covered on the show that I thought, oh my God, this is the most perfect piece of hardware for you. But before I even start with that, your current setup is working just fine. You sound great. It's working great. You're doing great. It's amazing. So no need to change. There's no reason to be cool or hip. But if you do want to be cool or hip and have this amazing little piece of software, hardware, I would go with the handheld recorder, the H1/XLR. It's Zoom recorder, okay, and it's $149. It is a tiny little thing, like it is so small. It has 2 little XLR outputs to it. It's a recorder, so you can record directly into it. Super light. It's the cutest thing ever. You guys could put it in your backpacks and have a couple of like super lightweight XLR microphones and a shorter cord or something, and you're set. It's such a great little tiny thing. Now, if you do want to add more people to the mix, because that only has 2 XLR inputs in there, you should go with the PodTrack P4, which is $169. One of the best pieces of podcasting hardware out there. It's low price. It's, again, lightweight. It's obviously bigger than the one that I just mentioned before because it's probably twice as big, but it's not huge. I think it's smaller than your Tascam. That's, again, very, very, very portable. You can do magical things with those 2. Click through the link in the show notes. They have amazing promotional video for this. It's probably one of the best promotional video that I've ever seen, in all honesty, for a product, just because it's being used and how it's going to be used. And it's amazing. And it's so low price. Now, again, everything that you're doing is working. You do not need to have anything cooler than that. Now, if you do want to make yourself cool, if you want to be even cooler, I would say the Rodecaster Duo for you guys at home. It's such a cool little machine. And I know you said you didn't want a mixer, but these are, It's just a cool machine. It is easy to figure out. It's not like mixers of the old days. You're going to fall in love with this thing. It's amazing. It has all kinds of stuff going on with it. Now, the Duo only has 2 XLR inputs. It has other ways to bring in sort of wireless microphones and things like that. But to start off with, and if you're not having anybody else come in and it's just you guys, I love this. It's $499. It's very cute. I would probably, if I'm going to be making a purchase of the Rodecaster stuff, I would probably get the Duo because I don't need the larger one. But there is also the Mac Daddy one, which is the Rodecaster Pro 2, which is what I actually have the OG Rodecaster, which is amazing and I love it. And that one has 4 XLR outputs and all kinds inputs and all kinds of stuff. So that's what I would say to you. That one's more expensive though. I think it's like $699. Okay, go. Rob, your turn.
The PodTrack P4 at $169 is such a good deal compared to the H6, which is what I usually would have recommended, which I still use. So it's hard to recommend the H6 over the PodTrack P4, given all the features that it has and what you're going to need to do. But if you have an old H6, use that. But I would just going to recommend one that had 4 XLRs. And the H6, H8 do, but they're much more expensive than the $169 for the PodTrack P4.
It's a fabulous piece of it's so good.
I will say the H6 is prettier, but the P4, for the price and the functionality, boy, wow. It's hard for me to... I'm sorry, my H6 is sitting here looking at me right now.
I know. I have my H6 as well. And but again, Kristen, you have your Tascam and it's working just fine and it looks fine. You guys have set up your studio really nicely on your, in your table, not like fancy studio, but it really aligns with your vibe. You sound great. You look great. There's really no reason why you need to change it. Like these guys are, I guess, newer and maybe has a little bit more of a cool vibe. But outside of that, and I think that the portability of it, maybe the Tascam is a little bit heavier than what we're offering here. But again, if it's really just going to be for you two and you really want to have something portable, going with that little tiny H1 XLR, even it's like listen, get the H1 XLR and the PodTrack 4 because even those two don't add up to the Rodecaster prices. You can have both of them. Whenever it's just you guys, stick one of the backpacks. It's just it's everything. I love that little device. It's so cute. Anyway, that's it. I hope that's helpful. Let us know what you decide if you decide to just stay and be classically cool or if you want to get like modern and hip with all the other fancy stuff. Okay, here's another email. Hi, Rob. A quick question. What's the best way to get a short, clean link for my audio show in Apple Podcast and Spotify? I know I can create them using Bitly, but I was wondering if there's are native options that I could share in my YouTube video descriptions. Thanks, NR.
So for Apple Podcasts, you can shorten their link by taking out unneeded items. So, for example, a standard link, depending on how old the link is, it might be like itunes.apple.com/CA/podcast/ultimate-health-podcast-wellness/ID92185427 MT equals 2 ampersand LS equals 1, right? Or the more modern link, if you go to grab it now, is going to be podcast.apple.com/the-jesse.chapos-show. I just was grabbing some examples here for his show and ID, and it gives the ID number again. But here's the thing. You can take out the country and you can take out the show title. So the original iTunes one works just as fine by going itunes.apple.com/podcast/ID92185427 as does the podcast.apple one. So you could do podcast.apple.com/ID92185427. That's it. And much shorter, much sweeter. You can take out all the fluff. You can get rid of the country code. You can get rid of the title. And the URL works the same. For Spotify, you can get it shorter, not too much shorter though. So I think like for standard Spotify ones, anything after the question mark can be removed. So it might be something like open.spotify.com/show/ a really weird numbering letter character combination for the ID of the show, question mark, SI equals, and then some other stuff. You can get rid of everything from the question mark on. And that's usually true with any URL. The question mark on is for just tracking purposes. But you can get the Spotify link shorter. Or you could do what you originally said and use a bit.ly link. When I use the Apple ones, I do get rid of the country code and I do get rid of the title because it is superfluous and Apple doesn't even look at that stuff.
They're so unwieldy and very long, for sure. Being able to remove that, they're just annoying. The links are just annoying. That is all, guys. I'm sorry. There's also, and I mean, just to bring back, I guess, episodes.fm. Episodes.fm does have a episode link, and it's kind of short also. It just says episode.fm/ and then it's like a bunch of numbers and things. But it's shorter than these, but it's just annoying. Mm-hmm. There's no good way to do it. Hey, Rob, you are in a documentary.
I am. The Age of Audio documentary, and it's out and available around. Do we have links to where where people can go?
I'm not sure if we have them yet. So I'm going to put a link to all of the social promos for this. Okay. I'm going to put a link for the social where you could see that. And that way, when you click through, you can follow the account and or be able to find out when it's going to show in its fullness. Okay. Because there is a YouTube link that I have here. And I'll put that in the show notes, but it's really wonderful. You guys, it is so wonderful. It's really great to be able to watch this. And Rob's in it. Woohoo!
Yeah.
We love it.
Went down to Dallas, got to do the recording. So yes, it's well worth the watch. Look for links in the show notes and to learn more.
For sure. There is a teaser currently over on most places, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link to the YouTube channel because I'm thinking that once they'll probably release maybe information about how to consume the entire thing in that channel as well as other places. But I think that's probably a good place to start. And I would say for y'all to subscribe to that channel. That way it'll pop up whenever they do release anything else. But it's really worth your time to be able to at least connect with this. It's quite inspiring, and it's going to make people be very proud to be part of audio.
And hopefully in the future, it'll make it to one of the streaming services, and we'll announce that when that happens.
Oh, for sure. That would be so great. I would love that. All right. So, Rob, what do we have next?
You know me and my obsession with politics and podcasts. So,
oh my God.
Writing, I have no idea who they are.
Writing, oh my gosh, right? It's like writing, but with a T, with two T's. Writing, oh my God.
Yeah, they looked at the most subscribed to political and news podcasts in CastBox. So I guess CastBox must give the number of subscribers, or they got the data. And I was interesting looking at the top 25. 17 of the top 25 podcasts are left-leaning. 7 of the top 25 are right-leaning. And then there's Joe Rogan. They had Joe as right-leaning, but I'm sorry, I still say Joe is more libertarian center. But anyway, he's been called both left and right, which, hey, whatever. That said, even if you went to put him on the right-leaning, it's still 17 out of 25 were left-leaning. So more of the top podcasts are left-leaning than right-leaning, which at least on CastBox, for looking at subscribe numbers, that was interesting finding. Per the top 5, they are Rogan with 3.6 million subscribers. Again, this is just on CastBox. The Daily with 1.8 million. Global News Podcast from BBC with 875K subscribers. Up First from NPR with 862 subscribers. And Ben Shapiro with 785,000 subscribers. That rolls off quickly, though, after that, because like Megyn Kelly was at 10th at 155K subscribers. And the 25th show was 60 Minutes at 69K. So from first at 3.6 million to 25th at 69K shows a big disparity in that top 25. And this is the top 25 out of all, and there's hundreds of thousands of political and news podcasts, most not active.
Wow.
So just shows you how dominant the top ones are. I mean, it was, I think, 6 or 7 that were above 500K. I think it was 6. The 6th one was above 500K as well. And then it rolled off pretty quick after that. And this is subscribers on CastBox only. But again, it shows what we've talked about in the past, how dominant some of the bigger ones are. And if you want to look at the full list, they looked at 50, the top 50. We'll have a link in the show notes to it. But I'm always interested in the politics ones and people saying, oh, the left needs to have this or the left needs to have. There's some really good left-leaning podcasts that have really good audiences. They're there if people just take time to look at it. And I think Bulwark was like 50th, was the bottom of the list, which is a really good left-leaning one. Billy Crystal, I think, was one of the people that works on Bulwark. Well, he works for them. I don't think he's the host of it. But anyway, if you're into politics, they have it highlighted which ones are conservative or right-leaning, and then the rest are left-leaning. Any comments? There's a lot that's coming out on the politics ones. Every book that comes out about Kamala Harris, there's something about podcasts in it.
Oh, it does it? Is it?
Every one of them. Yeah, about what her team did or didn't do, which, we said it before the election happened, and we called it, they just messed up on the last election cycle. It's going to be quite different. There was another article, and I didn't put the link in here, but it was an article talking about congressional podcasts, and I think Ted Cruz's podcast, he's a senator, but he's monetizing it, which I thought was not even allowed.
Oh, wow, that's bizarro.
Yeah, because Crenshaw is with us, his podcast, and I had talked with him and his team, and I asked them if they wanted monetization because it's really a big podcast. And his team said no. They said, no, we can't monetize it because he's an acting congressman. So I thought it was interesting that Ted Cruz is monetizing, according to this article.
Is it like, I wonder if it's like about, listen, I don't know, but I guess it could be one of those things where he's monetizing it and the money's going to charity.
Yeah.
The money's going to not him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's really interesting, too, when you're a congressman and you're in Senate and stuff you say in the public, it really is in the public. So people can take that and use it. So you lose some rights when you are in politics about what you say. People can reuse that information. Oh, I don't know. But anyway, Crenshaw's podcast, again, wasn't mentioned in the article, and they were talking about a few others. And so I wanted to do some more research. But again, there's always more and more of these articles coming out about podcasts and who's doing what, who's doing it right, who's doing it wrong. What was the congresswoman from Texas? I can't remember her name, but she was on recently on a podcast and saying the wrong Democrats are getting on podcasts. We need to only put forward the people that know how to speak. I was like, oh my.
Oh my. Yeah. No, but you know what? I've been thinking about that too, because there's so many people out there that are very this is not about Congress or politicians, by the way. This is more a comment that there's some people who are really, really good with their words and are they sound great. Their voice is great. The way that they speak is great. What they say is often great. But sometimes with voice, it's the way in which you say it and how you say it that sometimes has more it has more meaning than the words themselves. Sometimes the way that you say something and how eloquent you are with your voice. And there are some people who simply don't have that. Not because they don't want to be, not because they're not as intelligent as anybody else. That's just maybe they're better at writing, right? They write things down better. And when you read, you're like, whoa, that was an amazing, whatever, poem, book, novel, essay, whatever. So there's something to be said about your medium and how you shine. And not everybody is meant to go behind the microphone. You're just not.
Not everybody can speak for an hour and a half or 2 hours.
This is also true. Correct.
Some politicians can speak really well for 10 minutes or less. But once they get outside of that, they're outside of their talking points. And it's hard for them. But, you had Bernie Sanders go on Rogan recently for 2 hours with no issues, right? So some people can talk and have a lot to say, but not everybody can go on Rogan and talk for 2 hours, or Theo Von or Lex Friedman or Bulwark or Joe Budden and talk for a long period of time. So I kind of get where her comments were if the politicians aren't good at speaking long term, but the way she said it was pretty funny.
It's curious.
So this next one comes from Google and something that they're doing. I'll read this here. This is the title of the article. It was, quote, Formula E and its official cloud partner, Google Cloud, today announced a new initiative to make motorsport more accessible for blind and visually impaired fans through an innovative AI-powered audio race report, unquote. And you can read through the article with a link to it, but here's the key part of how this works from the article. Quote, the audio report is created through a multi-stage process powered by Google Cloud's AI platform, Vertex AI. First is a transcription. Google's Chirp model accurately transcribes live race commentary. Then there's analysis generation. Google's Gemini models then analyze the transcribed commentary alongside live timing data and other official race information. The audio report identifies key events such as overtakes, incidents, and strategic pit stops, and generates a fact-based, engaging race summary. And then finally, there's the audio production, and then the text is converted into natural expressive speech using advanced text-to-speech technology, creating a polished audio report ready for distribution. The entire process is completed within minutes of a race's conclusion, unquote. Okay, so I'm torn on this one. On one side, it's being done for a really good purpose. But on the other hand, I'm not a fan of AI-generated content for podcasts. Plus, if you watch F1 races, like I do, and my son does every weekend religiously, you can listen and work on emails and not miss anything. The F1 racer announcers, they do a great job covering the action. So even if you're not watching on screen, you're understanding what's going on because they're telling you what's going on all the time. Because it's hard to follow what's going on if they're not telling you what's going on. Otherwise, you just see cars whipping by, right? So I think the announcers do a really great job covering it. So if someone is blind, they can turn on F1 and listen and get a really good coverage. But this is more of a summary, I guess. I don't know how I feel about it all being AI and then it's not a real person and creating content. But I guess this is the future. We're going to get more of this. I don't think this is an anomaly and it's not going to happen anymore. I think this is going to be more and more of AI created content.
Oh, there's so much nuance. There's so much nuance because I understand the utility. I feel like the utility of AI is what I lean into when I need something done quickly without nuance and to get from point A to point B. And I think that things like this, like the F1 races, are experiences. And like you were mentioning, that the people do a good job in describing it. I'm sitting back sort of thinking like, okay, well, when is it helpful and when is it not helpful? The end, right? I actually don't know because even right now, I know that, what are those called, Rob? When you see the little lines, the words underneath a movie?
The closed captions.
Yeah, the closed captions. I use closed captions a lot because sometimes I don't understand what people are saying because they speak so fast. And so I appreciate reading what people are saying. I often also watch shows in Spanish with Spanish language and have the caption in English so that I'm getting both at the same time. And it's very helpful to me to consume something. That said, though, I don't know how this is going to play out. I think that this is just something that I think the use case is what the useful case is to me is how useful is it for people? period.
What I would rather have is a condensed version of the announcers made available for. Use the AI to pull out some fluff stuff and condense it down to the important parts of the race and give me the announcers' voices and their tones and their excitement of it, because the AI is not going to get the excitement in there when Verstappen, goes off the track or gets overtaken.
Right.
So, or when Hamilton does this or that. To me, as an F1, I would want maybe a condensed version of the race available as a podcast that I could listen to on Monday morning on the drive to work if I wasn't able to catch the F1 race because it was crazy early in the morning on Sunday. But that would be what I would like as a fan, the real coverage and the announcers' voices, because there's just something about that. Any sports announcer that's really good is so passionate about that sport. Oftentimes the color person, that's their life, right? They were in it, they lived it, they did it, and they can give an emotion that only someone that has that love for that sport or event can give. And I just don't see AI matching that. My opinion, I haven't heard it yet, and I'm sure it's a good summary. But, you could still use the AI to do, and they have the rights to the announcers, right? Why not just use the AI to condense it down, would be my say.
Well, keep us updated, F1.
I think this is just going to be the start of more and more
of this
AI
type of
content. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Rob, are we ready for some stats?
I guess we are. This is the median and mean numbers. They are based on all episodes released on Libsyn and Libsyn Pro in the month of May, with downloads measured to the end of June. On average, each file was about 45 days old. This is, again, for all shows hosted on Libsyn and Libsyn Pro. The median number for May was 121, which is up a bit from the 116 in April. The adjusted mean average, where I throw out the top 0.5% and any files with 3 or less downloads, the adjusted mean for May was 1,191, which is also up a bit from April when it was 1,144. 5.6% of all downloads for episodes in May were greater than 5K, in the 5K range or greater, I should say, for downloads. This was up a smidge from April's 5.5%. And here are some numbers to measure against. Put things in perspective, if your episodes are getting over 121 downloads after 30 days, you are better than half the shows. If you're getting over 500, you're better than 72.3% of the shows, or put you in the top 27.7%. If you are getting more than 900, you're better than 80% of shows. More than 2,700, you're better than 90% of the shows. More than 5,700, you're better than 95% of shows. More than 16,000, and you're better than 98% of the shows. And more than 31,000, you're better than 99% of the shows. May's numbers were, for the most part, up a little or a bit compared to April. As a matter of fact, I think all the numbers were up versus April's numbers. So good month in May. We'll see how June works out. So where have we been? And I had an episode go live. I was a guest on the Podcasting Secrets podcast. Thanks, Nathan, for having me on the show. It is available as both audio and video, and we have links to the episode in the show notes, both the audio and the video links. So if you want to see me not looking at my camera, because bad video person, you can watch the video and see me looking down at the screen instead of at the camera all too often. There you go. Thanks.
That's okay, Rob. I don't think that you need to. That's my 2 cents. Once in a while, that's fine. But yeah, I really don't think you should. But good job. Good job, Rob, being on video.
I am just not so used to the video. I know. I got to get better on it. All right. Have you been anywhere other than back and forth for your daughter's place?
I know. Oh, my God. I actually was on the Creative Imposter live show, and I'll put a link in the show notes so that you guys can check it out. It was really wonderful. I talked about diversity and inclusion and representation in podcasting. It's a really nuanced conversation in there. It's not what you think. And I would really love you guys to check that out. So again, I'll have a link in the show notes about that so that you can consume it. And also, I was on our blog, Rob. We just published a blog post about multi-user, but it's not really about multi-user. We really were looking at it from the perspective of moving from being just one person to possibly considering adding a team. And we really tried to create a blog post that was as helpful as possible for somebody who is considering hiring or figuring out how to start to build a team. And we broke things down, definitions, a small team to a little bit of a bigger team and things like that. I hope it's helpful. There will be a link in the show notes so that you guys can check that out as well.
Per where we're going, we got Podcast Movement in August in Dallas.
Yes.
So we'll be going there.
Fantastic.
I've got to definitely leave there on that Thursday because my son's move-in at college is on Friday. So I have to get back early Thursday to help pack up and then drive.
Oh, my gosh.
So we're leaving early, like 6 a.m. on Friday.
Holy monkeys. Yeah, you're going to have to leave on that Thursday.
Yeah, I have to leave early Thursday or late Wednesday. We'll see how that goes. But yep, he got his move-in time and it's on Friday at 3 p.m.
Sweet.
Now, there's another show we possibly are going to in September. Hopefully, we'll get that finalized and we can talk about that on a future episode. And then we'll probably have some other places to talk about. But that's right now, Podcast Movement, August. That's the primary one. If you're starting to look at it, looking to start a podcast or starting to look at it, creating a podcast, however you want to phrase it, or switch up your podcast home, you can use the code THEFEED for a free month with us. The feed, one slug, and a month plus free. And finally, don't forget to send in your feedback for anything we did or did not mention on this episode. You can record that feedback and email to us, thefeed@libsyn.com, or you can call us 412-573-1934. Or finally, you can use SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/thefeed.
All right, guys, send us your feedback, and we'll talk with you in a couple weeks.
Ciao.
Bye.